to the November 12th, 2019 work session of the Abingdon Town Council. Kim, call roll, please.
Mr. Bradley.
Here.
Ms. Quich.
Here.
Mr. Webb.
Here.
Ms. Patterson.
Here.
And Mayor Craig.
Here. First item on the agenda is public comments. We don't have any. Next item is new business. Discussion regarding purchase of generators for municipal facilities. Mr. Moran.
Yes, the capital improvement meeting that we had last week, there were a couple departments that have requested generators for the facilities, one for town hall and one for the street department. And it led to some somewhat detailed discussions on types of generators and the reason for the request. And what I did was I talked to our departments, John McCormick, was also going to be here too for the next item for discussion too, but he had a fire. And I talked to IT, to Floyd, and he's had some training. So CJ's here, which he's pretty well versed in the stuff, and Rick as well. And I know the council wanted to discuss it further. I did hear some indication that the council was even willing to authorize that purchase this year. I think that's still probably up for debate. We had a finance committee meeting this morning, Mayor, and it was discussed briefly. And I think there was some, maybe some indecisiveness of whether or not we want to do it right away versus wait until the next budget year, but I'll let you guys hash that out. So I guess the reason why this is on the agenda was the mayor had asked me to place it on there in case there was a discussion to authorize any purchases in this year's budget to go ahead and proceed with that versus putting it into the capital improvement plan. And we have a couple individuals here that are able to answer any questions regarding the particular type of generators, but whatever comes out of this, there'll probably be some direction that I'll need to give them, whether it's coming back with some more information or to authorize the purchase.
Well, to be honest, I stirred it up, and I was somewhat alarmed to find out we didn't have emergency power for the town hall, and especially the town hall and the public works facility, because if we have a heavy snow, we might lose power, and God knows if we need power anywhere, we need it at the public works facility. So I thought we ought to put it in now, but I'd like to hear what the budget constraints are, or what problems we have there.
Well, I mean, I talked to Chuck about it after the meeting, and we were a little bit, I won't say concerned, but a little bit, we're trying to figure out, where we take the money out of, but I totally understand the concern about not having something like that. I mean, we do have a generator at the street department right now. Now, Jamie's not here, Tyler's not here. I do believe they're able to function, but it's just at a minimum level. It's just, lights, but there's no heat or anything like that. Correct, CJ, you're familiar with that?
Yeah. I talked to Jamie this morning. My understanding is they have portable generators and they have it set up that they can plug in to get the fuel pumps running and stuff like that.
Okay.
That's all they have.
Okay, so they do have the power to have lights and fuel pumps.
We didn't talk to that, but we did talk about the fuel pumps. He did have the power to. They've got four or five portable generators they use for the traffic lights. If they have traffic light go down, they can power that up.
The other question I wanted to ask you then is, because one of the things that Floyd had brought up at the meeting was, I asked him, why is this in the IT budget? And he thought, well, because we house our servers upstairs here, he thought that was an essential, aspect of government operations.
It is.
If that were to happen, do we have some sort of generator for the servers upstairs, or any computer equipment? So if the power goes down in this building, what happens?
First up, your battery backups are going to kick in, but they're only going to be good for I want to think an hour at that.
Okay.
But also part of your internet that comes from police department, for fire department, any of EVA comes through here. So
Okay.
when town hall loses power, then we lose internet and all those other places.
Is there a smaller generator that could be purchased just to power the IT equipment versus buying one for the whole building
There is, yes.
Okay,
And we could separate that off, and those are conversations that Rick and I were having just a little bit ago, that,
okay.
yes, we could separate those circuits off.
Because to
and
me, that's,
identify
I mean,
that.
that's what this is just my opinion, that's what I would see there's the most pressing need for town hall in that event. I know that some people have said, well, we can have like we might need staff here for emergency operations, whatever, but I see more as public safety, maybe having that housed if there's, I mean, obviously, come this time next year, we're gonna have all these things addressed, hopefully, with a new capital improvement plan. But in the short term, my thought was, well, if we could address the issue at town hall with the infrastructure and the IT, I do see that as a priority.
Yeah. I mean, you'll have probably redundant costs with that, as far as if you went ahead, I mean, we're not talking about a lot of money to do the entire building itself. I mean,
Can somebody tell us do you have cost estimates around? Maybe we
Oh.
should start with that.
Well, that was one of the things we talked about at finance this morning, was we were gonna have, I'd like to have Rick work with IT and with Jamie and Tyler.
Well, why
To
don't,
develop
let
some
me
costs.
suggest this,
Yeah.
why don't, I believe, I've talked individually with the council members, everybody is not alarmed, but concerned about the problem. And we wanna get it, I think I can speak for the entire council. We wanna get it done as soon as possible, we don't wanna bankrupt Chuck or anything like that. But why don't you all develop a plan and come back and take into account, you know, the financial aspects of it, like you say, why do we need to buy generators, I mean, you know, that we're not gonna use later.
Yeah.
So, take all that into account and come back and make a recommendation. Could you all do
Yeah, I'm good with that,
by-
yep.
by-
Would
by
you
the
like some
council
different
meeting?
options?
Yeah,
Would
we
you like
would.
that?
Yeah, we would.
Okay, okay.
I've got a
Yeah.
question. When you
Very
said
good.
plug up your generator, you mentioned that about. Did you have something to say, Ms.
No,
Quach?
go
I'm
ahead,
sorry.
go ahead.
When you say plug up a generator, were you meaning plug it in for power, plugging it in for diesel? I mean, like using diesel or natural? What do we have in place right now?
At the street department?
do you
Street
know?
department's just gasoline generators, just portable,
Gas.
like you go to Lowe's and buy a gasoline generator,
Okay.
nothing
A lot of
fancy.
those are for traffic lights.
They are,
Yeah.
yes,
And
absolutely.
just so the public knows, we did talk about this, diesel and natural gas operated. And I also mentioned about being careful where to place it for the diesel
Yes.
fumes if we just decide to do diesel.
Amen.
So just so that the public knows that.
And I think what Mayor was saying, he wanted natural gas, I mean, that's agreeable. We've got natural gas line out back here, so that's nothing we can't do, so.
We need to take into account the reliability, how long we're gonna be out of service if we do something temporary, or that sort of thing.
Yes.
I don't know the longest power outage here, but we wanna be prepared to take care of a long power outage as far as I'm concerned. We don't wanna lose our communications, we don't
Amen.
wanna lose the ability to use the internet and our software or any of that. And we wanna be able to function at a high level during the snowstorm if we have a major snowstorm. So all these things need to be kind of taken care of.
Rick and CJ, is it realistic that we could have something for the next council meeting, or do you want it the next work session? Is next
Yeah.
work session okay?
What, you tell us.
Or, I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you
When
think?
is next work
We
session?
want it done as soon as possible.
Okay, well, the second would be the next regular meeting, the regular council meeting. But I mean, if we're not gonna take any action, well, we might take some action, but, I would recommend just give us a time, I'd recommend just bring it to the next work session, if that's okay with everybody. I mean, if we're able to get all the information together and we're ready
Let's
to.
leave it like this. If
What
you can get-
locations?
Excuse me, go ahead, Al.
What locations are we talking about for this? The fire department, the police department,
Town hall and, street department.
town hall,
The other,
the shop?
Yeah, shop, yeah.
So there are four,
just two.
No, just two, the town hall and the shop,
town hall and shop? You don't need, they probably have one at the fire department.
Yes, they do.
yeah.
And, there's one
And
at
the
the
police is okay, I
department.
mean, the
Yes.
police is,
Yeah, it's rather new.
we've got, a generator there.
Oh,
already.
yes, very much so,
Right,
yes,
okay,
yes.
is it gas or diesel?
Diesel.
Oh, it's diesel.
Well, why don't we leave it like this, we start with the council, you all report back to us on in the December meeting where you are.
Okay,
And if you're ready to make a recommendation, do it then.
will do.
If not, just give us a report. Is that all right with everybody?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right. Thanks, CJ. Thanks, Jimmy. Jimmy, this whole agenda's yours, so you just go
I
right
know.
ahead.
I don't miss them. Well, the emergency operations plan, I had talked to a couple of the council members. They had inquired to me about whether or not we had a formal emergency operations plan. Now, the county, and this is where I'll probably have to ask the chief to come up. The county has an emergency operations plan. They are the designated emergency agency in the county. Is that correct, Tony? However, it was asked if we should have our own plan. Up to this point, it's my understanding, when there's been an incident, there's been collaboration with the county, somewhat informally, but we don't have a plan document that actually states, here's what, now we don't have an agency either. So I sent through the Emergency Management Agency of the county, I distributed, I think we put it in the packet too, the county's Emergency Management Agency. So the discussion was going to be whether or not the council wanted me to work with the staff to develop a town emergency operations plan and what comes with that. And that's what I was gonna maybe ask Tony or CJ. I think CJ is pretty well versed, and the chief was gonna be here as well. I asked him to come, the fire chief, but maybe CJ, if you could explain what would entail if we were to develop an emergency operations plan. What are our obligations? Do we have any? And obviously we need to mesh that with the counties, but maybe you can help start us off.
Okay. Ultimately, and Chief, please correct me if I'm wrong here, the code gives roughly, was it 3 different options, correct?
Yeah. State code, right?
State code gives you 3 different options. First, your option is that you shall appoint a emergency management coordinator. All towns, town council shall appoint an emergency management coordinator that makes sure that the town's policies fall in line with the county's emergency operations plan. Okay, right now we don't have that. We operate underneath. We're totally underneath the county, but the code does say that town council shall appoint emergency.
So we're
management.
not in violation of that because we don't have a plan, is what you're saying?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And then your other option, and so your first option is keep doing what we're doing. Second option is appoint an emergency management coordinator that falls underneath the county operations plan. You have no monies available to you, you're not having to do your own plan, you're just making sure that everything that we're doing follows underneath the county's plan. The other option is the code states for the town of Chincoteague and all localities, all towns with excess population of 5,000 people, that the municipality can elect to go separate from the county. At that point in time, the mayor and/or town manager shall be the director of emergency management, and then that the council shall appoint a coordinator to oversee the plan. At that point, we have to have our own emergency operations plan. We have to submit it to the state every year. Little hoops to jump through, nothing huge. But at that point in time, then we become eligible for grant monies through the state and things of that nature. So nothing huge, but there are monies out there to be gained by that. Anything to add to it?
No, other than, couple questions. The mayor asked the question, how long we've been without power. The longest I could think we were without power, previous discussion, I think we were without power for 12 hours one time. That's townwide, 12 hours. And that ties into the second thought. I've been here 17 years, and I think only on 2, maybe 3 occasions we've actually activated anything dealing with the county emergency plan. One of them was a snowstorm, tornadoes. It seems to me we had something else. So it's not that common, and we don't activate it that commonly. If you're asking for history, we always get fire, police, we always get a copy of the county's plan. And the county's plan is very generic, as I heard you all comment, it's very generic. Well, it's meant to be that way, because when things go bad, as you know, we've got to have room to operate. We've got to have room to sort of ebb and flow with the disaster. We've got to make decisions that, on a clear, bright, sunny day, if everything was perfect, we ordinarily wouldn't make. but we've got to have the latitude to do that. And the county's plan does that. It's a template plan. It does that. So I guess from my standpoint is, you know, it's something we could definitely look at. We could definitely look at cleaning up. But historically, at least since I've been here, we haven't had problems. And it's not just the police. I mean, it's fire, it's rescue, it's everybody who has to be brought in. Tornado, for example, we brought our public works crew in under the emergency operations plan. In fact, one of the good things about coming under the county, we were able to send resources to Glade just like that. You know, they called and I said, what do you need? And they said, well, we need officers and we need some equipment. Well, we sent officers and equipment to Glade. That was hit much harder. So the plan that we had works, and it works cooperatively.
One thing that I wanted to add, Tam had provided me the statute, and one of the things that it says in there is, a coordinator of emergency management shall be appointed by the council of any town to ensure integration of its organization into the county emergency management organization. To me, that sounds like it's not permissive, that it's required. Now, we might not have our own emergency management agency or our own plan, but the way I read it, I mean, is that your interpretation? Is that
Sounds like we just need somebody to coordinate with.
like to have a liaison,
Yeah,
so
somebody
to speak?
formal.
Yeah,
name.
that was that first option there. You can do
Oh,
that.
I thought you said if we didn't have a plan that we would,
You still have to name somebody for them to talk to. Ordinarily, it's,
so we don't have that, right?
no, and ordinarily, it's just by proxy, it's either gonna be like the fire chief or me, whoever's out here.
Are you volunteering?
Well, I mean, I can. You pay me to volunteer, I'll volunteer.
Yeah.
But, you know, by
Okay.
proxy, it's sort of what kind of disaster it is first. I mean, obviously, if it was, you know, if a train turned over and was on fire and we had chemicals, I don't want to be over near it, so John McCormick can have that one. But,
So it's an obligation of the county, because we're not an independent city, it's the obligation of the county. Currently, we fall under their emergency operations plan. And us, by having a liaison, it still doesn't prevent us from having our own internal, standard operating procedure, or is that, I mean,
it's that, if you develop that, it's got to dovetail or mesh with the counties.
Yes,
So that's,
unless you said.
We might be going a little bit further than we need to in this meeting. Cindy and I guess the other council member was Cindy, but I don't know that. We went and learned enough about EOP, is that what it's called?
Yes.
To be dangerous, and we heard horror stories about, and we shown New Orleans mayor looking like an idiot. Well, I didn't want to look like that, so.
I think he was a strong mayor, so you don't have to worry about that. Obviously, he ended up.
So that, I know I look like an idiot, but that larger idiot, I mean, the magnitude of that was terrible. But anyway, basically, I'm just speaking for myself, and Cindy, you may want to chime in on this. I just want us I want us to be in compliance with the law. And I do think we should have something written with a name on it of who is the emergency coordinator, if that meets the requirements of the law. And then I'd like for the staff to recommend anything else that we need to do or that needs to be put in that staff. I didn't raise this issue to create a new system or imply that there was anything wrong with what we're doing. I just wanted to look at it and make sure we're in compliance with the law and make any changes that we may need to make, that's all.
Well, in these times, I guess you guys are seeing that we have troubles and disasters quite often, and it'll tell you so if we biblically as well. So we said in our session, at the CIP session, the capital improvement, there was two departments that brought up generators, and so this kind of takes a spin of just being prepared. And I know you guys work hard and you're always prepared for your jobs, but we just want to look at this and like the mayor said, just in other words, be ready. I mean, he didn't say that in his words, but I'm going to say it for him. Just be ready and make sure we got everything in place, and then we not only do we look to make us look good or better, but just to make sure that we know what to tell the public. We got to be informed as well. What do we tell the public? They come to us, it's an emergency situation. What do we need to do? be ready, be
Tru-
prepared.
truth- and truthfully, all
don't
that-
freak out.
Truthfully, since we have a communications piece already in place, we've got, one thing we do pretty well here is get the word out. One thing, you're never gonna reach everyone, period, no matter what you try. But, in a matter of 10 minutes, we've got stuff everywhere, being on the radio, on television, and we've done it before. And so we know that piece works. And then, of course, we also got the alert system, the notification system. So we have pieces that just we have, that other parts of the county don't have.
And I think more into a bigger scope of a bigger disaster is what I'm talking about. So,
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
You have the same components, quite honestly, whether a train derails, you have a hurricane or a tornado, you have the same components that you have to answer. We're prepared to address 99% of those. The piece about tying us to the county, that might be something you gotta look at.
So if it wipes out the radio and all the electricity for, more than so many hours.
You're not gonna worry about it anyway, because there's nobody to communicate to at that point. You gotta look at that that way.
But
I'm
I
not
can
talking
say
about-
we're prepared for that.
Yeah.
We are
And I'm
prepared
not
for that.
saying you're not, and I'm
Yeah.
not
No,
being
no, I
argumentative
thank
at
you
all.
for asking, yeah.
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 but-
Now, one of the things that happened in the last 5 years was CJ did a pretty good job of building a sort of a secondary infrastructure for us to operate on, communication-wise, and to be able to communicate outside with the public. And it's almost to the scale that one of the comments that we made then was, well, if we get this far, there's not gonna be anybody left to talk to. So, those types of situations are in place.
Essentially, we've operated as our own emergency management, just not officially, ultimately.
And it was, we can run, I'll use the tornado as an example, I know we might be getting long, you can cut us off, but, the county's resources were so dedicated to everything that hit in Glade Spring, we had no resources to handle what was in Abington other than our own. Well, we had our own communications running, we were running our own cleanup, so we were running our own disaster, because, they had to have resources somewhere that was hit much harder, and in fact, then the next day, we sent our resources up there. So, these types of things, we've done this before.
I'm sure you have, and you did a good job.
So I'll get with the staff and Cam and I are gonna discuss it. I think we have an idea of what we wanna do.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
very
you
much.
all.
Go ahead, Jimmy, with the next item.
Next item is, really what this is a proposed clarification of the code regarding appointments by the town manager. It came up at the last meeting, and I know that there was this resolution that was adopted about a year and a half ago, I think, and it was to sort of clarify that the council's authority, clarify the town manager's authority through council direction as far as personnel issues are concerned. Well, one of the things that Kim had noticed, that we do have in our code, this section in the town manager's portion of the administration section of the code, it is in conflict with that resolution. And I think the cleanest thing to do is just to clean that up if you want the resolution, to stand as it stands now, and everybody agreed that was, at the last meeting, that was the case. All we're recommending we do is just strike some words to just be consistent with that resolution. So, and it says an appointment of such officers, under the town manager, appoint such officers and employees, and then take out as the council, as the town manager shall determine. And that last sentence, obviously was what triggered the public works position, bringing it to the council, because I have to go by what the code says, even though I know the resolution was in force at the time. So this would clean that up and would prevent us from having to bring that to the council again, so.
So this is a change in our ordinance.
This would be a change in the ordinance
So
here,
does
and I would,
that
yeah.
requires one public hearing, Kim, to,
Just one public hearing, okay. So wait, what's that? No, we wanna do this now, so we'll do an amendment and we'll get to on the next council meeting, so.
so we can do it at the next council.
I don't know, can we take final action on the next council?
Actually, it's not a zoning ordinance, we might not need
A public hearing.
You will look at it.
It'll be on the agenda regardless whether it's a public
Okay,
hearing or
all right.
a,
But it'll be on the.
but it'll be on the next agenda. This will be
Okay.
pretty quick
Good.
to draft, so.
All right, go ahead, Jimmy.
The next item is the appointments of board and officers. I had gotten some feedback from some of the council members who wanted to put in some,
You skipped.
did I skip number 4? Sorry. Let me just get this, can I get this over with first? Might as well, I've already started talking
Go
about it.
ahead, yeah, that's all.
And this is pretty quick. So what we did was, we put together, and Kim did some work on this, found some guidelines from some neighboring jurisdictions on how they deal with some of these committees. And what we found is, a lot of these community, was this also talked about at VML or something? I don't know, maybe not, okay. Attendance-wise, the main reason why we look at this was we have some participants in some committees who just either stopped attending or they weren't very reliable. And look, if they can't serve on the committee, then they shouldn't be on the committee. Obviously, it's difficult to just say, hey, could you please leave the committee or let, this is a mechanism by which to say, hey, you've automatically basically rescinded your position if you can't make a certain amount of meetings. We covered that in section 2-385, which is on the second page. But what we did was we looked at some other policies and other jurisdictions that we thought, hey, you know what, even though we're just focusing on that one issue, it would probably be a good idea to incorporate a few things. We tried not to go overboard, but we did want to make sure that we had things in here about notice of meetings, which is something that Kim and I have talked about. We just want to make sure that all the committees that have citizens on them and that are acting as advisory boards, and I'll be talking to the department heads about that if and when we adopt this, we need to make sure that we notice those meetings because they technically should be open to the public. So now obviously they're advisory and there's no final decisions usually made at these, but we just need to make sure that all the committees are consistent with that. So we added a section in there about there. And then this came up during the discussion about, in closed session, which we brought out eventually and voted on, but members who are applying for boards and commissions, I think there was a desire by the council to have preferential treatment to residents of the town or people who have a business in town or whatnot. So we did find some similar policies in other communities, and we try to incorporate that in here. That's in, I think it's in B. I think it's in here. Oh yeah, first section of B. Membership on boards, commissions, and committees shall, except where required for a specific reason or an unusual circumstance, be given priority to town residents and or affiliation to organizations and or businesses located in town. So, if all things are equal, we'd like to see the residents on the committees. So that's why that's put in there. So this is just a draft. Open for any comments. We can just bring it back to another committee meeting if you'd like to discuss it more after you've had some time to look at it more, or I'll do whatever you guys want me to do. If there's any suggestions, I'm open to anything. So,
And remember, some of the formal committees, infrastructure committee, for instance, has adopted its own set of bylaws that have this and more in their own bylaws, and there are other ones in the code that are specific. I think the idea.
right, well, I tried to make this one general, more generalized, so, like, it's my understanding, as far as the removal or the vacation of the office, I don't think all the bylaws have that, but if the council adopts it, it would cover all those, all those committees, because a lot of times, it's nice for the committees to police themselves and to have these in their bylaws, but we know it can be difficult for them to want to remove one of their own members. Unfortunately, somebody has to be the bad guy. And since we established the committee and we are providing them the authority, we ought to be the one to say, look, if you can't make, so those are some things that wouldn't probably be in a bylaw. We felt like, missing 3 meetings in a row outside of exigent circumstances, and that could really be up to the chairman to determine if those are exigent circumstances, or, 3 out of 5, because you could have somebody that makes every other meeting. At that point, it's the committee's responsibility to report that to the town. Let us know.
I was just gonna say, there's some that are very formal and some of them that are in their own ordinance and that sort of thing,
Right.
but there's several that need something like this too.
Yeah.
That aren't that formal now. so
I'm actually gonna
it's
do
more formality.
I'm actually gonna gather a list. I was gonna have Kim send me all of the, people that's on your to-do list. I wanna collect all the bylaws from all the committees.
Good. Do we make these explanations or these expectations clear when we appoint people, I mean, when they're
We
notified
will
about
Going
appointments?
forward.
Yeah, that's what I
We
wanna,
should get a
We-
copy.
we
that's what I
haven't
wanna be
done
sure.
that
Yeah,
in the
I bet
past.
bet we've been lax on that.
Yeah.
We
We
probably,
actually have it on the application that we've discussed also, that
Yeah.
they've read them and understand.
Yeah.
and they should automatically
They
get
should probably,
bylaws.
they should get one of these when
Right.
they, when they apply, yeah. I mean, it's kind of common sense for people to come to the meetings they're appointed to, but they need to know how many meetings they can miss. Obviously, if there's a critical issue, I mean, the committees in a way are sort of policing themselves because they're gonna be the ones to report. But if staff is involved with the committees, we're gonna know it anyways. And so staff's gonna report that back, but some of the committees that maybe don't have as much staff support or maybe they don't feel a need to, or they're not keeping track of who's at what meetings, if they maybe missed a meeting. The goal is to try to get some buy-in, and we'll talk about these with all the individual committees as well, but, is there any-
Another thing I'd like to know about is, where do the limitations on the number of terms come from?
Well, that's a good question, because I actually asked him that question. It is not in this code,
Yeah,
it's
it's
in their
not.
bylaws.
Yes.
So, cause there were some that she would post and this appointment is, or this term is no longer, person is no longer eligible for a term. It's not in our code, it's in their own bylaws, actually. So I would prefer to keep them that way unless
I'll tell you what,
we feel a need to otherwise do it. Let
What-
them police it,
when I worked for the town
yeah,
long ago, we had a man on the Board of Zoning Appeals who had been on there for 40 years.
yeah.
And he had a memory of, institutional memory that went way back and was really, really useful on a lot of occasions.
Yeah.
I don't see the need for having term limits, at least, it's not a.
Well, that's their bylaws, and so, I mean, if that's something that we
Yeah.
have to talk to them about, I see both sides of it. I see it's an opportunity for either other people to serve or to get fresh blood in there. I have seen completely the opposite, Hal, where I've been involved, and people are there way too long, and they get into, a certain, groupthink mentality, and it's tough sometimes to, they just don't, and they feel entitled to those positions.
Yeah, well,
So there's good and there's bad things.
The
about
council
that.
needs to take those things into effect,
Yeah, so I don't
into
know when
account
those-
when they appoint people,
And I don't know when those, how long, which committees, and how long those term limits have been in place.
I hate to say it, but I believe it depends on what council's sitting on the board when they do that, so sitting up here, so.
Yeah, because the council might not like the direction that one of the committees is recommending, like, they don't like things coming out of the planning commission, so, like, let's give them term limits, because we don't like them, you know what I'm saying?
Well,
It can get political.
That's what I
Board of
think,
Zoning
yeah,
Appeals, though, of course,
happened.
is a creature of statute, and it has its
Yeah.
own state requirements, but then we've got other things like the Finance Committee, Tree Commission, and other things that are sort of things that maybe, those might be bad examples, but things that might not be so
Right.
inherent in state law. So we I think we need this to have a sort of overarching generalized thing, like Jimmy said, but we probably need to look at each of these individual things as separate things, subject to
Like,
their rules.
do we need term limits on the tree commission? Do we have term limits on the tree? commission?
Yes, we do.
I mean, we have a hard time filling those
We do,
positions.
yes.
So maybe we rethink
Yeah.
those for certain committees. Some committees are more attractive than others.
In the cemetery committee and other things too, that are sort of specific to us.
Right.
Well, that brings up something else, a couple things. One, you mentioned advisory committees. What about committees that, they're advisory committees and they just advise, but then we take action on the tree commission and like Veterans Park, and Kim had mentioned something about putting it on the website when these meetings occur, so that the public is, welcome to come and
And
knows
that's what
what
we're
day.
talking about noticing the meetings, yeah.
So, that being said, what about the, like the veteran, and we talked about this, that, Mr. Moranti and I talked about, putting the Veterans Park Committee on our website. I think that's a good idea. It's a public, thing, a public place to go to, so I think that should be on there, and let's see when the meetings are and things of that nature. What's coming up, what we're gonna be doing, and, but just the action meetings also needs to be, it's already up there. Some of those meetings, like the planning commission's already, you give
Yeah, we
notice.
notify planning
or-
commission, zoning board of
I
appeals.
guess that would be Mr. Bailey, he gives notice, or.
Jason actually and Janice in that department.
Okay.
They do those.
Yeah, and those are even more important, because the final action is occurring at
Oh,
those
yeah,
meetings.
yeah.
Because the COAs are approved, and historic preservation. But it's some of the ones that are not, that are more, not even as much advisory, but more like the tree commission and the tourism and things, where things don't always go right to the council, that technically those are still, public meetings, and we just need to notice those. They don't get attended that often by the public, because people are busy and they have lives, but they are, they should be noticed, so we're gonna.
Excuse me, I thought you were finished.
And, yeah, you go ahead, and I'll.
The planning commission has what I consider to be a pretty good balance between longevity and allowing new blood. They have a 4-year term, and then you can renew that term. It comes to the council and you can renew that term. That's correct, isn't it?
Yes, sir, for
Okay,
two
so
consecutive.
you can serve 2 terms, but then you have to go off, and that makes it to allow new blood, but and how long do you have to go off for? Just 1 year, isn't it?
1 term.
Or 1 term.
So you could be
1 term,
8
and then you
4
can
of.
come back on. I think that's a pretty good balance between what the concern of allowing new blood. I don't feel comfortable kicking somebody off of a committee that's been on there 16 years, but nobody else has an opportunity to express their views on the particular committee. So I think that's a pretty good balance. So I suggest we at least think about what the planning commission's doing, if the council decides to get involved.
And I also like the section 2-388 reports to council. We need a lot, a lot of reports. We need to see what's going on and be involved. And I think that's good.
I have to respectfully disagree with the term limit thing. I think it's just something else for the staff to have to keep up with, and unnecessarily so. And it's no great, it's no great big pleasure to be on these boards for the most part. And if people are willing to do it, I think they ought to be able to.
But what if somebody wants to serve and they can't because nobody retires off of the committee?
Well, that's not usually the case. I mean, that's not usually the case. People die,
Yeah. That's true. It's not usually the case.
Well, as it stands now, Al, I mean, those right now, those
Yeah.
term limits, my understanding is those are all done internally at at the bylaw level with the committee. So I do plan to get all these bylaws, and maybe what I'll do is I'll
Yeah, good.
put some information together and send I'll probably ask him to do it. Here's all the committees and what they have, which ones have term limits, which ones have don't, and we'll just send it to the council. And then I wanna house all those bylaws, so there was one that you sent me that I think we did or that you did for the, infrastructure committee. And so the ones that don't have bylaws, maybe they need to have bylaws, but those are all things that obviously staff's gonna have to be involved in, but, I'd like to see where that, cause these term limits are kinda all over the board.
You also have tourism committee, very specific categories, like a restaurant and the museum, somebody from there. So
Yes,
you've got
yes.
a lot of things that are
Yeah.
not cohesive and
Well, and that one is, it's kinda,
it is.
that one is good probably to have some term limits, because you need that turnover. It's not fair for one business to have exclusive right to this seat on the tourism board. I think we do have a new member now coming on that
Will be appointed.
will be appointed, so, yeah. Does anybody has, any comments? We'll put this on the agenda, at the next meeting, whether it be for a public hearing or first reading or final action. So unless anybody has any additional comments on it, feel free to let me know.
Are you gonna be able to look at all those bylaws and everything by the next meeting?
No, I'm talking about this right here. Just-
Okay.
yeah, no.
Okay.
No, I'm not that productive.
All right, okay. You need to go back on that, then.
Yeah. The next item we're gonna talk about is the Coombe Recreation Center membership rates. All of you should have received an email that I sent. I know email was, well, we had issues, passwords were being regenerated, so when they went into effect, or when the notification went out from the Coombe Center, some of you might have heard it from somebody else because they hadn't seen my email yet, so I apologize on the timing of that. But, do you have these? Did you bring these? Okay, we'll give you, this is what I emailed. I just wanted, Jennifer brought more copies just so you kind of just jog your memory on it if you don't have it up or if you didn't print it out. These are just the new membership rates and some had asked me, well,
Okay.
you know,
Okay.
Thank you.
this is something that we normally do during budget time, and Chuck had explained to me that, since they run on a calendar year, the thought was just to go ahead and implement them for their fiscal year, which is the Coon Center's calendar year internally. I'd like to at least bring this to you now and discuss it. It has not gone into effect yet. We have sent out the notification, the letters have gone out. It's not effective until January 1st. But I wanted to turn it over to Jennifer for her to explain, outside of what you saw in my email, I assume you were gonna be the one to explain it.
So I do want to back up.
Yeah.
So this is something that Chuck Malisha and I spoke about in February when we were talking about the upcoming budget, that Chuck and I believe Derek Webb had a conversation prior to that about, because Derek is on our rec commission committee or the advisory committee, that Haywen was the last time the membership rates had been increased, and so that was a conversation they had. We spoke about it in February to have that increase within the next year. And so we worked on those throughout the summer and early fall and got these to Chuck in our last quarterly meeting, at which time we had discussed last February implementing them by January the 1st. I think the last increase was 2015. That was prior to Malisha and myself becoming co-directors. So,
And that was only for the county residents.
and that was a substantial increase for the county resident side of that. And so with this increase, we wanted it to be across the board in the discussions that we had again with the finance director. So it's $5 per year per membership, just to clarify that. So it's not $5 a month. It is $5 per year that we increase that, so it is a nominal increase on all of those. But what we also did, if you look, the handout that Malisha gave you has our current fee structure on it. And then what we did with the new fee structure is we streamlined it. I made it a little bit easier to read. This is very confusing for all of our folks that come in, trying to break it down. And, you know, this is one of the biggest things that our front desk associates are working with our patrons to try to explain: daily rates, passes, memberships. So when we looked at this, we talked with Chuck, Malisha and I talked with Chuck to talk about ways that we could streamline it, but also hearing some of the feedback from our community members that, because when you look at this, it looks like we have a whole lot of options, and there are, but there were still some limits. So we introduced quarterly, which we have never done before. So we're giving an entirely new option to our community. We have a lot of people that are only here certain times throughout the year, being that we are, you know, we have a large retirement group that they live between here and Florida or wherever else their other homes may be. We have families that only come and utilize our center for the summer months. So offering the quarterly time is going to give, right now, I think that we're projecting that with the new rates across the board and possibly gaining some of those quarterlies, that we're going to boost our revenue about $7,500 to $10,000 per fiscal year, annual year. So we're just trying to close that gap between the expenditure and the revenue, and that's really our goal with that.
And I think another one of the concerns was that I don't know what the percentages are, but I know that the majority of them is actually county. It's like 52 or whatever percent is in the county. So we didn't want, definitely, you know, we wanted it to reflect on the county any increases, and nothing on the citizens of the town. But, you know, the county is utilizing the center. They are, you know, I guess the majority, if you look at it that way, and just passing along an additional
Small
fee for
increase.
them just to cover just basic, you know, keeping things running smoothly.
As far as something that Jennifer said about closing the gap, so Jennifer and Alicia took over in 2017, right?
Mhm.
And we actually had, we were at the time, from the time they took over from this past fiscal year, they've actually decreased the subsidization of the general fund by over $500,000. Right now, we're at $818,000 the last fiscal year. So the general fund was subsidizing or supporting the Coon Center by over $800,000 a year. But just as early as 2017, that number was, it was 1.3 million, 1.372 million. So, I mean, I know it was probably a combination of things, but it's obviously, you know, it still doesn't, we're still, you know, there's still a gap, significant gap there. And I know it might seem like it's not a lot of money. Well, it isn't to each, you know, individual member, but if we can just continue to, I mean, they're getting I think a very high value for their membership, and a small incremental increase like that just helps close the gap a little bit. And specifically, like Chuck said, if, you know, majority of the people are not even town residents who are paying taxes in the town already.
And the increase is 20 to 25 cents per month. That's what it basically boils down to for the increase for the year.
I'd like to know where the town council got that extra $500,000 that you all cut out.
I think we're paying the mayor with that or something with it. I think that's what's in there. I can't remember.
With all
We
due,
turn that over
with,
to Chuck.
Investigation.
What do you-
with all due respect, I think that part of that went to the outdoor recreation, Mr. Worley's budget.
Part of it did.
Part
but,
of it did.
the-
But,
some
I
of
mean,
the- Some of the salaries were definitely moved over there and fringe benefits, but I can guarantee you it wasn't $500,000 worth.
Yeah, we talked about this morning. I mean, there's been some contract, and it's not, yeah, that whole $500,000 isn't everything that they did. That would make you superstars, but there were some, but a
Shifting
substantial
around the
portion
budget.
was just streamlining some contracts. Some salary did go over, yeah, some of like Kevin's salary, and some did go over, but I did talk to them about the staffing, and staffing has gone down there. I think they have worked more efficiently, and some of the activities that they run, they said that they've streamlined those and better, you know, organized those better. Maybe there was.
And of course, with the guidance of our fearless financial director, you know, he
And I'm
continues
sure it's
to.
gonna be, now with the new town manager, it's probably gonna go down another $500,000.
Can you all tell us what percentage, or maybe Chuck can, a rough idea, what percentage of the cost of operating the center do our user fees
It's
cover?
covered about a third.
So 2/3 of it is
Your
subsidized
yeah.
by the center.
Third's covered by revenues.
I just want to say this, that, and I want to say publicly, I thought about talking to you all privately, but I think we should say this publicly, or at least I should. You all were talking about building a new gym and all these kinds of things. I just don't think the town by itself can continue to provide the service that you all want, and I certainly don't want, and I'm sure the council doesn't want to discourage you at all from doing the programs you do. They benefit all of our citizens, but we can't continue this way, and the county's gonna have to be involved in some way if we're gonna accomplish what you all want to accomplish. There's no way that the town can do it by itself. So I just
Absolutely.
wanted to make that clear. And there are people that are living on our borders that clearly to me are not paying the share that they need to pay. And I'm telling you that because I think we need to tell everybody the truth, that there are people using the Coombs Center that aren't paying their fair share. And we need to get that fixed.
And Mayor, I actually had that discussion with them, actually after our finance committee meeting. What we talked about doing was what Stephanie Davis said, you could still have that unfunded, you know, capital project sitting in the plan document. But until we, and what I told them, until we recognize a revenue stream or we're able to collaborate with the county or a benefactor, I don't know, somebody could leave us a lot of money. You know, we need to make sure we get some people's wills and things like that.
I just,
It's, for a town of our size, I mean, we already have a fantastic facility. I mean, it is great.
yeah, I'd
and
just
we're very
like to
fortunate.
compliment you all. Y'all do a great job. It
Yeah.
We
always looks
appreciate that.
nice.
And when we bring the
Yeah.
capital improvements, it's just to make you aware that we have reached the limits of some of
Yeah.
our programming with what we
and,
have.
we
And not that
appreciate
they're not great,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
we just, will continue that greatness with what we have to work with,
Well, I'm glad
with
you all
those on
came
the table.
today. I think, I appreciate knowing what's, going on. It helps us
Yeah.
to, do the things that we need to do, and we need to deal with the issue that I was just talking
Yeah.
about, as well as you all. You can help us by just communicating the problem.
Absolutely.
And for
That
this
we
year, I
need
believe,
improvements, and the town
we
can't do it
talked-
by itself.
we talked about this at the finance committee also. This year, it's $900,000 that the general fund is subsidizing the teen center, so,
This fiscal year.
this fiscal
Okay,
year,
this
yeah,
is 20.
yeah.
Well, whatever you're doing to save money, keep doing it.
Yeah,
And
that's
we
true.
all also say again, thank you. But we do have a sports field we're gonna be building too, so that's gonna help the community as well. So
Absolutely.
I'm sure we're gonna go over that money that we borrowed, cause it's gonna be expensive, but we gotta watch out for that too.
I mean, it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
Our activities are being so successful that we have a need for, you know, a gymnasium addition or a new pool, whatever, and that just means they're being utilized. So, but if you get calls or complaints from everybody, I can't get in there this day, why not? It's because, well, you know, we can only support so much.
Right. And if you'll include us in your will, maybe
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe your
We'll
your
have some
children and
money.
your grandchildren can.
Are you talking to me specifically?
No, the patron that you're speaking with.
Mr. 79.
If the shoe fits, Wade.
So that is, kind of the conversations behind our membership increase. Does anybody have any questions or anything that we need to talk about further? And we have gotten feedback from those that we sent out via email. We have posted on, our social media and within, and we will be sending letters out in our November and December billing as well, and continue to let our community know. But the feedback that we've gotten thus far has been phenomenal.
Yeah.
That it is, they do understand that we do have to have those increases in order to reach those goals to meet their community needs. And so we hope that if you guys get some of that feedback, you'll share that with us, so we'll kind of know what we need to do to be that happy medium.
I'd like to see what the numbers are, and I could maybe next year report that to the council what the quarterly memberships are, because I actually think those will be
Think they're gonna
utilized
take
heavily.
off.
In a previous rec center, like in a community, like I use that during the winter months to play basketball. And, I think there was a need for the summer as much, but I guess.
Yeah, with the
that
outdoor
doesn't need-
pool.
Yeah.
So we are looking for that to pick up, and that may, push us over the 10,000 mark that we'll see, Chuck.
Thank you all.
Thank
Thank you.
You want me to go on to the next one, Mayor?
Yeah, go on to the next one.
The next one is the available dates for 2020, so January to July, regular meetings, work sessions, and budget meetings. So, Kim, I'll let you lead this discussion. I don't know how we usually do that. Everybody pulls out their calendar.
I think Derek is, maybe, probably need to check his.
That's right, we all revolve our calendars.
So what are we looking for?
January the 6th would be our first regular. Derek, your January dates for work session?
So,
Derek, we start with Derek on that item. I've already got it on here, the 19th.
January?
Oh, no,
I think
I'm in
it was-
December, I'm sorry. Not only can I not hear, I can't see.
What about the 16th, huh?
January the 6th is the regular meeting. How about the 16th, guys?
No, that's a week after our meeting. We talked about that earlier.
Okay.
So we wanna go on to the next week.
All right.
Yeah, I do like kind of doing. the
Yeah, I don't
third
like
week.
the next
I think
week,
they're
yeah,
close, yeah.
So what do y'all think about the 21st to the 22nd?
Either one's all right with me.
So
Fine.
22nd,
Either one.
22nd?
Yeah, I'm not doing Tuesdays.
Okay.
22nd?
22nd, okay.
That's at 2:30?
Yes, sir. The February regular meeting will be the 3rd.
What about the 18th to the 19th?
Yeah, we're not doing the Tuesdays, if you don't mind. I'm busy on Tuesdays, so
So
Wednesday,
19th is a Wednesday.
is that good with
Is
y'all?
that all right
It's
with
good,
everybody?
yeah.
Yeah.
The next regular meeting will be March the 2nd.
Wait just 1 second, if you don't mind, Kim, let me get
Sure.
this in here.
That was the 19th, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
We're
and,
looking at March.
wait a minute, you said, okay, the
So the
2nd of
regular meeting is
March.
the 2nd.
Yes, sir.
The 18th, perhaps?
Is that all right?
It's a Wednesday.
Yeah.
April 6th would be the first Monday.
I'll tell them that at 11 o'clock.
Yeah, just 1 minute, Kim, if you don't mind.
April, do it. Not looking at these right. March.
So Derek, are you like off on every Wednesday? Is that what it is?
No, no, it alternates.
Oh.
That's, my weeks
Okay.
alternate. So in April, are we shooting for, if we're shooting for the 3rd week, the 23rd is my day off.
We need to schedule some budget work sessions in here also.
Well,
We usually
could
do the
We can
non-departmental.
do it
in
the
April.
16th, can't we, if you want? What is your,
Yeah, like I said, where we push forward a week, my regular.
I think we liked having them 2 weeks.
Yeah, if we're pushing, you
Yeah.
know, towards the end of the month, the 23rd is my Thursday.
maybe my calendar's wrong. Oh, I'm looking at March.
Like I like having them the first week. Like I like having at least 2 weeks between
Yeah, I do
council meeting and
too,
work
yeah.
session. Cause this one kinda crept up really fast.
Yeah, I know it. It was
I
like,
was like, what?
yeah.
But that's okay, you know, it's kinda slow right now, but things pick up around this time.
What day are we looking at?
The
there?
23rd
of
23rd,
April.
Is that all
Is it
right?
Thursday?
Is
fine.
that
Yeah.
all right?
Yeah.
Derek, do you have any time for a budget non-departmental during that month?
Yeah, so I mean, the week before, the 14th, 15th, and 17th.
Well, April the 15th 's tax day. Is that
Sound like
any
a good day to
problem?
do a
Is
budget.
that any problem with anybody on that 15th?
They can ask for an extension.
How many days do you need, Kim, on that?
This will be the non-departmental in April.
So,
Well, then let's do the 16th then. Is that good for you, Derek?
I work that day.
Be there by May.
Do what?
If we're doing the non-departmentals, you'll have to have that information, I mean, we'll have to go to April 15th is usually the deadline when we have to have the budget finalized.
So we'll have to do it before then, is what you're saying?
You may wanna look either the very first of April or the last of March for those non-departmental.
If you're looking,
allocations.
We'll look at March 1st.
if you're looking, let's see here. If we're looking in March, I've got the 26th off.
Well, let's do it. Can y'all do the 26th?
Yeah.
2:30 or
Yeah.
Yeah.
2:30?
We usually do it a little earlier.
12
because
o'clock.
we
Yeah.
have start about 1 that day.
One.
Okay,
Does that
1
work?
o'clock's fine with me.
Yeah, it's good.
Earlier the better.
And that's for non-departmental?
Yeah, that's what I would recommend, because you're getting too close to budget
Okay.
deadline, you wait to go to
With the CIP.
We usually have our other budget sessions ahead of the non-departmental, or
the earlier March, than we have in the past.
well, we just want to schedule those, or?
Would you say that again, Mayor? I didn't hear what you said.
If I understand what y'all are talking about, March 26th, we're gonna have a non-departmental budget meeting. We normally have our other budget meetings ahead of that.
Yes, we
Are we
do.
gonna schedule those now?
That's what I was
that's
asking
what you're
Jimmy,
talking- okay.
yes.
How
The
about-
CIP that we just
Oh.
went over, how many do you
When do
think?
you
So
get-
you don't do them at the work sessions, you have separate
Budget
meetings for
sessions,
that?
yes.
Oh, okay.
We normally meet, but I'd like for the finance committee to recommend
To
something.
do a lot of it. That's why I thought the finance committee was doing a lot of the heavy
Liaison.
lifting. We could probably do some of that at a regular
Yeah.
work session, but I'm
Well,
open to.
let's hold off until,
Yeah.
and let you all make a recommendation on
Yeah,
what
hey,
we need to do.
And
Hang,
that's.
hang on to the non-departmental
Yeah,
budget
yeah,
session
yeah.
that we just
Yeah.
worked on, but, you know, let's keep the others at abeyance till we know. Yeah.
So we've got the 26th of March at 1 o'clock for non-departmental budget.
Right, so we've got April 23rd scheduled, the work session. Okay.
May 4th is your next regular meeting.
I'm getting there, Kim.
You're fine.
May the 4th.
Yay. May the 4th.
And I'm off the 21st if you're going 2 weeks down the road.
That's my brother's birthday.
May the 21st. My brother's birthday's the 20th. That's
Well,
weird.
who cares?
I do. Really? Wayne, you're 79.
Y'all wanna, it's Wednesday, all right with you guys?
Thursday.
Thursday.
Thursday the
Oh,
21st.
Thursday.
We can't have brotherly love now? Is that
The
what it is?
21st, did we say?
21st.
21st.
I'll send out a notice, I'll say. June 1st will be your regular meeting.
Ooh, nasty. Be a hard day.
So the week of the 15th. Yeah, work session.
Okay, Derek, where are you in June?
So,
I can't do the 18th.
yeah, I'm actually gonna be out of town that week, the 18th. What about the 23rd or the 24th? Anybody?
I mean, we do have 5 Mondays in there, so if we have a space between, with there being 5 Mondays, it's still gonna take a beat 2 weeks before the next, council meeting,
The
so.
23rd or the 24th, all right with me.
Well, that's
Right.
that's
But
like,
you don't like Tuesday, so it's the 23rd,
well,
right?
hold on, yeah, the 23rd's a Tuesday, but let me look at July. Then we turn around and July 1's, no, wait a minute.
No.
The 6th of July is gonna be our next one.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So it's
That-
still 2
that
weeks, cause
sounds-
there's 5 Mondays, so it still works out.
Do you have, what else did you give us, Derek? The 23rd and what?
I'm off the 23rd, 24th, and the 26th.
Okay.
The organizational meeting, since it's election year,
July.
being on July 1st. Yeah.
July 1st or July 6th?
July 1st.
It's the first
It
one.
normally is the 1st.
Oh, you mean we don't do it on that Monday? We don't do July 6th?
No, it's the organization.
No matter when it is. I think
Really?
it's the first.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And let's do that at 9 o'clock.
Oh, so we're not really doing a full agenda for anything, and so we still have our meeting on July 6th.
Last year, we had just so you know, Jimmy, we have to have an organizational meeting.
Right.
But last year, we had a full meeting. I don't know what this year's gonna be like.
Okay,
So, we had 2 meetings last year.
right.
Okay.
You had the organizational and you had the regular business
Right,
meeting.
right. In the past, we've only had the organizational meeting.
Yeah.
So hopefully this year we'll just have the organizational meeting is all we'll need.
Yeah,
So,
it's tough to do a regular council meeting in the middle of the day for some.
So
So-
they had it at 7:30 that morning on the 1st of July.
well,
7:30? We,
We do, yeah.
7:30 in the morning?
Yeah.
Eastern time?
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, because,
Yeah, we can't conduct a meeting.
Well, that's
Last year
what-
we had Chick-fil-A.
Oh, okay.
Last time.
All right,
let's get back to
did we,
the,
did we settle on the 24th?
23rd or 24th of June.
yeah,
24th is the
we
one.
haven't settled, Al, as far as I know. Cindy, where are you with that?
Let's get there.
okay, I'm getting there. I was there, but I switched pages.
Let's do 24th.
I'm sorry, so June, the 24th, right? Okay.
The 24th is a Wednesday. Is that okay with everybody?
24th, yes. 23rd.
I believe that's about all the scheduling we need. If we go any further than
Not
that.
that I'll do anything.
Take it.
Maybe go out.
What do you think, Al? That's all the scheduling we need, isn't it?
Yes, sir. As far as I'm concerned.
Gets us a ways down the road.
You want-
And we're gonna
Okay.
leave, that July meeting until we know something more
We'll
about
wait till we
it.
get closer, yeah. I mean, I was talking to Cam, I'm gonna talk to Cam about it and see if, by tradition, maybe we've done the organizational meeting on the first day, but if we don't have to, we can do it at the next regular meeting at the same time.
I think that's because
I'm
of
not-
appointees and things.
I don't remember that we've always met at 7:30, for an organizational meeting. I don't remember that. Do you remember, Ken?
Yes, we did. We did.
Yeah.
Okay, all
We used to,
right. I don't see how I got out of bed that early, but.
I don't, well, wait a second. No, I'm not gonna say anything, you might not.
they used to troop over to the Martha Washington Inn to go have breakfast and then go home.
All right, are we done with,
Can I get approval to stay at the Martha, since it's really early, it'll cut down on my commute time? Can I get that approval for expenditure?
No.
If you're gonna meet at
No.
7:30,
No.
I'll just be able to walk over, all right.
no, we're not approving
We'll,
anything.
we'll,
for you
we'll
today.
buy you a cot for here.
You didn't even attend the Veterans Park.
I was sick.
Yeah,
Are we having a closed session?
and now you want us to approve overnight expenses. You're nuts as far as I'm concerned. Are we done, Kim?
Yes, with the.
Yes, we're done.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. The next item on the agenda is matters not on the agenda. I've got a couple of things I wanna talk about, if that's all right with the council.
Did you skip unfinished business?
What?
Did you skip
I think
unfinished
that's what he's on.
business?
Yeah, I skipped unfinished business, but we don't have any unfinished business.
Oh, okay.
Unless somebody knows it. I raised the issue, with one or two council members, I don't remember how many, but when I first came on council, we had, Mr. Kelly, hired a real estate agent to sell the 22 acres of property we own on Route 11. And, what's the name of that street, Cindy?
Sapo Lane.
Sapo Lane. That's a residue from, I guess it's kind of complicated, I don't know. The county and the town bought a piece of property for a sports complex. It fell through. We bought the county out and then sold part of the property, and now we've got 22 acres out there. Mr. Kelly tried to sell it, and the real estate people said it wasn't a market, there was no market for it at that time. That was probably 3 years ago. Is that what you remember saying?
Somewhere along there.
I wondered if it was time for us to revisit that and maybe
Oh, please.
sell
Yes.
that property.
Yeah,
What do you say now?
I'm saying yes, let's do that.
All right. Okay, then if, I think what I recommend is that we, Jimmy and the staff, proceed with selling that property if it's all right with the town council, and, recommend to us.
Recommend you,
The way to
I'll
do it,
consult with Cam
and
look at
go
our
ahead and proceed with that.
And
The other
just to
thing
be
I
clear,
wanted-
I think it's,
Go ahead.
I think everybody, similar things like this have happened before. I think everybody calls it the Sapo Lane property, but it's not actually on Sapo Lane, it's on a
Yep.
different street. But we did the
That's
lease
right.
for that Mr. Millsaps farms that property and it.
It's
it
not
has
on
a-
Sapo Lane.
No,
But they call
is
it on
close
Sapo
to,
Lane.
it's
Okay.
close to his property and it's close to Sapo Lane, but it's not
Alright.
actually.
But
on
Anyway,
they've always
It's
called it
22
that.
acres out there somewhere. but-
22 or 42?
22.
22, okay.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead with that then? The other thing I
Generally
wanted to,
referred to as Sapo.
I don't think this takes any action, I may have authority to do this myself, I don't know, but I think we need to have a celebration, of the, celebration party for the courthouse, committee for the fine job that they did, and, just have a good time and have a party. Is that all right with everybody?
Courthouse committee?
You know, the people that save our courthouse,
Yeah, okay.
the people that did the work, and the people that were involved in all the doings that we did to, get that, 70-30 vote. Is that all right with everybody?
Why
Have
don't
a
we
party?
research that?
Why don't we research that?
How many is that gonna be?
Cam
Mike?
is talking
What?
to you. Cam.
Why don't we research that first and then we can decide? Subject to
Oh, well, yeah,
management.
that's what, okay, that's fine. But do something.
We might have to all chip in to do
courthouse committee might have money left over to throw their own party.
whatever,
That's true.
as long as we have a party.
There you go. He just wants a party.
When you have a victory, there are not many times to celebrate on this council. So we need to celebrate, as far as I'm concerned. Somebody needs to make the motion that we need to make to go into closed session.
We ready for it? All right. I'd make that motion, give it both at the same time.
Yes, sir.
Okay. To go into closed session pursuant to section 2.2-3711183 of the Code of Virginia, 1950, as amended for discussion or consideration of the acquisition of real property for a public purpose, or of the disposition of publicly held real property where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body, as well as closed section pursuant to section 2.2-3711829 of the Code of Virginia 1950 as amended for discussion of the award of a public contract involving the expenditures of public funds, including interviews of bidders or offerers, and discussion of the terms or scope of such contract where discussion is in open session would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body.
Okay, we have a motion to go into closed session. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Webb, second by Mr. Bradley. Any discussion? Kim, call the roll, please.
Mr. Bradley.
Aye.
Ms. Quetch.
Aye.
Mr. Webb.
Aye.
Ms. Patterson.
Aye.
And Mayor Craig.
Aye.
Can we have about a 15-minute break?
Yeah, sure. Cindy, I skipped you.
Aye.
Ms. Patterson?
Aye.
Mayor Craig?
Aye. Do the
Sure.
thing there, Derek.
So I'd move that the town council certify that in the closed session just concluded, nothing was discussed except the matter or matters specifically identified in the motion to convene in closed session and lawfully permitted to be discussed under the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act cited in that motion.
Mr. Bradley, do you so certify?
I so certify.
Ms. Quetch?
I so certify.
Mr. Webb?
I so certify.
Ms. Patterson?
I so certify.
Mayor Craig?
I so certify. Okay, Cindy, unless you have some report to make, we'll adjourn.
Anybody have any reports? I would like to say real quick, thanks for everybody that came to the Veterans Park ceremony. It was absolutely wonderful. I believe it was a record attendance with over 400 students coming to see the ceremony. I think we had about 8 or 9 trees that were dedicated to veterans. And I was just so pleased and happy to see everybody. And I saw several council members, and I thank y'all for coming. And it was great. It was probably the record attendance, 700 people, probably 600, 700, 8 maybe. It was great.
And
Thank
Ms.
you all.
Ms. Patterson did a great job as
She
the
did.
master
Thank you.
ceremony.
Thank
She
you.
did. She did
I
a great
appreciate
job.
that.
Okay, we're adjourned, council.
Thank you.